Welcome back to episode 157 of Tall Boy Radio, and we've got another treat for you tonight. We have another guest, a guest from the film industry, which I'm sure you will enjoy. But before that, we've had a little bit of good news ourselves. The good folks at Listen Notes have been in touch and told us that we are a top 10% listed podcast globally. So that's not just on their platform, that's on every platform in all of the 53 countries that we're listening to. And so thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We really, really appreciate it. And there's a couple of other guys who really appreciate you listening as well. So do you want to say hello, Gaza?
Yeah, just echo, evening guys, evening the world. Just want to echo what Adam's just said there. Massive, massive thanks to all of our listeners. It's great when you get sort of recognition for what you do. You know, top 10% global listeners is great. Really looking forward to this episode. I love having guests on, just meeting different people, just hearing their experiences in the field that they're going to sort of talk about. So yeah, really looking forward to this.
Nice one, Dave.
Yeah, welcome everyone. It's great to hear that just after a few weeks I've been on the podcast a bit more and we're already top 10%. There's just no stopping us now. Thanks, everyone.
I had entirely put it down to your contributions.
No worries.
And as I said, we've got a guest tonight, and it's a guest who's made a number of films. And when I say made films, he's been the director of photography, he's produced, he's starred in them. He's pretty much done everything that there is to do in the world of film. So, Jason, do you want to say hello?
Hi, yeah, how's it going? Hello, world. I'm Jason MP, independent filmmaker.
Indeed. Now, I first came across you when, and I forget the name of the magazine. I used to big time be into horror before I had my kids, and I don't like putting bad vibes out into the house, as I've sort of said now. So I don't watch half as many. So I used to subscribe to a couple of magazines like Fangoria, and it might have been Scream, and one of them was giving away a free DVD, and it was your good self that featured in it, one of your films.
Oh, that was that Gore Zone magazine by any chance?
Yeah, Gore Zone, that was it. Yeah, that was it. So which film was that one that they gave away then?
I believe I believe there was two issues that had films. One was Homemade and one was Sick Bastard. They're the two that went out on Gore Zone.
Yeah, I remember. I do think I might have had them both actually, because I did subscribe to that magazine for quite a while. So you've made quite a few films then, dude, haven't you? How many of you are you responsible for?
To be honest, I've actually lost count over the years. It's been over 20 years, and a lot of shorts and a lot of features. And I've contributed to a lot of anthologies as well, and some of my films have been re-edited and re-released. So I must admit, it's become such a 2 decades of mess that I myself am not sure the full number anymore.
No. So, well, they're also, I have to say as well, and we'll share a link on our website and we'll stick it on the blog post and in the show notes as well, no doubt. But your films are also available on Amazon as well, aren't they, dude? If you have an Amazon Prime subscription.
Yeah, that's right. So Amazon Prime does host some of them. Some of them are now up on the pay for channel, and they've been released all around the world on various formats. And I wish there was more on Amazon, but I used to have more, but some got kind of banned. So there's other ways of seeing them. There's Vimeo is worldwide, and there's a on-demand channel on Vimeo, and that hosts most of my filmography. So there is a home for them all now with the digital era. But Amazon cracked down on a lot of independent stuff, and I was a victim of their slashing.
Oh dear. Oh well, we'll share the Vimeo link then instead. That's probably the best place. So of all the films that you've made, then which was the one you're most proud of?
That's a tough question, really. I think Tortured, which is also known as Psychopaths, is probably my most successful and known film. I got a real reputation for that, and so I'm quite proud of how far that travelled, because that film is it's about 15 years ago. It was made, and I still get feedback. People are still discovering it. I still see sales of DVDs. So the fact that the film has managed to hold a 1.5 decades of interest is that makes me quite proud that I achieved that on quite a tight budget.
Yeah. So as you said there, your films are micro budget. Just out of interest, Dave, Gaz, do you watch a lot of micro budget films or low budget films?
Obviously, back not not recently, sort of back in the day when we dabbled with some horrendous sort of videos, and we said, oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to make a trilogy of various sort of films. And so back in the day, yeah, maybe a little bit more, but not recently, obviously. Sort of family and this and that, just time wise. I did obviously come across, obviously did a little bit of research and stuff, and looked at sort of various trailers and stuffy films. And there's obviously a common theme, and there's various sort of should we say, and it was the pun you used earlier, you know, Amazon seemed to slash. And I was like, okay, nice pun. I like what you did there. That was a pretty cool choice of words. So, but no, not recently, if I'm honest. But yeah, back in the day, watched the odd bit here or there, sort of things.
Yeah, not for me. I'm afraid nowadays, if it's not on Disney Plus or Netflix, it doesn't get much airtime in our house. So I think Sabotage was the last time I got anywhere near those kind of films.
You see, the good old days of Sabotage. Was it 1, 2, and 3 or whatever it was? I can't remember what we made, but yeah.
So yeah, we back in the day when we were younger, we had visions of grandeur as well. We had an idea about making our own film, and to say it was nothing short of absolutely appalling would to be giving far more justice than it.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's sort of, I think everything from the casting to the lighting to the script to the direction to the acting to everything that you could possibly imagine in terms of a film, everything was just horrendous.
Not everything.
Oh, okay, you're going to big yourself up now, are you, Dave? Okay.
No. We absolutely nailed the budget.
yeah, we did.
You mean there wasn't one?
There you go.
That's it. Yeah. So yourself, Jason, when you set out to make a film, I'd be interested to know what is the process? Where do you start? How much time goes into sort of the pre-production, the script writing, and the planning? How much time? I can tell you, with us, it was absolutely zero. We just rocked up into the woods with a camera and made the stuff up as we went along. What about your good self?
Well, Tortured is probably the one that I mentioned before, is that had the most planning, and that film took probably 1.5 years of my life. So it was a good 6 to 9 months of pre-production. So I wrote the script, did a bit of storyboarding, location scouted, had to try and get all the cast and crew together, have meetings and auditions, and so it was a good 9 months to the point of filming. The filming was quite hard. I tried to do that within a week, so I did it in a block of 7 days, because I've previously done films where you film at a weekend, or you film a week here and then a month later, and so. But I wanted to get this one done because it's really hard to get people back and continuity, but they were about 20-hour days as well, so it was really torture in real life. And then the editing was a whole another 6 months on top of all of that, really. So that, because that was a feature length, but obviously I've done shorts where I've been in and out, or I've been hired in for stuff where I've had stuff thrown at me a lot quicker and had to deal with it. So it does depend, but like even homemade, that was a good year, a good 9 to 12 months of my life as well. So a lot of the features have been quite tediously long, and I always live with those films because I'm always having to get distribution or send them, or find a new life for them. So yeah, you're kind of stuck with them for life as well. I've only just recently, it was only the other year that I remastered Tortured for a Blu-ray release that come out in Canada and America, and so I had to remaster the whole film and do new extras. So revisiting it yet again.
Oh wow! So I mean, that's a lot of work in it. That's a real labor of love. Which is the bit of that process you enjoy the most?
I do really like filming because I'm quite a technical person. I do like doing the cinematography and stuff. Because I get hired in to film other people's films as well, so I do enjoy it. But some shoots have been really tough that I've been on in my life, and it gets to the point where, although I love filming, sometimes it's nice to hibernate and edit and just sit in my little cave and get on with it. But even then, if I'm involved with other people, then the pestering comes along, the emails and the messages, can I see a cut? Where is it? But I do enjoy it all because I like writing. I wish I could write more. I don't have time for that because I end up, the actual filmmaking side takes so much time. But I would probably say filming is the funnest part. It's when it's not a stressful shoot.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, in terms of sort of your films, and you mentioned about trying to get people together and do it within sort of a week and stuff. In terms of the casting for the films, are they people that you go to a casting company for? Are they people that you know and effectively you can maintain the budget? How does that even work? Do you get people that would almost come and sort of I say interview for the roles and stuff? Just talk us through that process of the idea of what it would be that you would want your characters to look like, and then actually is what they end up looking like on film, sort of what you had envisaged in terms of use of pre-production stuff.
Yeah, so normally I have a certain type, you said, in my head, of so it's trying to find someone to match that, but that is tough. Agents can be a pain. If someone's got an agent, they're not the easiest to deal with. So I have sometimes gone to people that I've known from other people's films, or just being in the industry, like who do act, or they act part time. So I've approached actors I got already foot in the door with, if I think they suit the role, which has turned out well sometimes. I have borrowed in the past for smaller parts from like friends, family, and as you said, I myself being in camera, I'm not a massive fan of acting myself. I'd like to be the filmmaker, but I've ended up filling roles just because of, you said, budget restraints and time restraints. I can rely on myself, but I've had some interesting interviews and auditions. I have done some drama films. There was a whole day's audition, and we got the most bizarrest of people turn up for a call out. It wasn't my fault. I was hired to direct a social drama film, and the writer was the producer, and he put a casting call out, and there was just certain types I had in my mind from reading the script, and he did come to. We had a meeting, and he threw a whole load of headshots and CVs, and I picked a few out, but him being inclusive, they invited a lot of people to this audition, which I just knew wouldn't fit the role, and that day got quite out of hand because some very bizarre characters walked through the door.
Wow.
And literally, would they just dismissed almost sort of out of hand? Is that, you're not really the person we're looking for, sort of thing?
Well, yeah, but one of them wouldn't leave, so one of them wouldn't leave the building, and kind of just got a bit like creepy, and
you will find me a part for this. You will find me one. You need to write me into this because I'm not going. Brilliant.
So, Jason, is this your full-time gig then, filmmaking and directing and whatnot? Is that full-time for you?
It is, yeah. I'm a freelance independent filmmaker, so I'm an all-rounder. I get hired to film and edit a lot of stuff, and then I try and do my own stuff as well. I do cover a wide range of stuff, so I've done corporate gigs like filming live events, seminars, and I also, amazingly, I teach filmmaking as well. So I go into I'm involved in an academy near where I am for filmmaking, and I go into schools and run workshops and stuff like that. But yeah, all to do with filmmaking basically is my career.
So you've got corporate events, teaching school kids, tortured.
Yeah. So okay, it's really awkward in the past. So I ended up I was under one umbrella, and I tried to break it. So I do have 3 websites because of the different videos I'm involved with and make. And I also, like with Instagram, there's 5 accounts, one for like corporate video, one for live event video, my own main one, which is just all the kind of crazy film, because I'm a film collector as well, and have a lot of film in my collection and memorabilia and that. So I kind of have my own like persona that's known, and then other stuff. So yeah, I had to try to get the right accounts for the right clients, basically. So
yeah, it makes sense.
Indeed. So when you say you're a film collector as well, I've seen a little bit on YouTube of stuff that you've shared. And not only that, though, you're a big fan of the Vipco Vaults of Horror as well, aren't you?
Yeah, Vipco is a big part of my life. So I knew Michael Lee that ran Vipco years ago, and I was going to make a zombie film for them that was going to go out on that Vipco Screamtime collection. But unfortunately, just as I was making it, his son got really ill, and the company folded, which was quite. But I still did the short film. But a few years ago, I was sitting there thinking about all of that, and was annoyed that I missed a bit of an opportunity because of there was a lot of issues with making that film. So I actually tracked down Michael Lee because he kind of disappeared, but I found him just because I'd known things from the past work dealing with him, and so I made a whole documentary, a feature documentary on it. And through doing that, some of the boutique labels got in touch because he was the producer of Spookies, the 80s classic, and no one knew how to find Michael Lee, and I unearthed him. So then all of a sudden they grabbed me to get the deal done, so Spookies could get remastered and released, and then obviously my documentary went with that as well. So it ended up becoming a quite a big pet project, that one.
Oh, fair play,
Wow.
fair play. I mean, me and my brother, you know, there's only a couple of years between us, but we loved those films growing up. So I think Night of the Demon, that was Vipco as well, wasn't it? That was one. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. And you know, funnily enough, like when I talk about horror, and I used to say to my wife that, you know, watching those films when I was a kid and I was way too young to be watching them, never really, I don't think it really affected me. No comments there from the other two guys. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I said it didn't. And I related this story about Night of the Demon and the bit where like the Yeti or the Beast like basically takes the biker's knob off. And she was like, how many years is it since you've seen that film? I said, oh, I don't know, maybe 20. But so you're telling me these films don't affect you, yet you can describe word for word and scene for scene and play for play exactly what happened in the film you haven't seen in 20 years. It's like, yeah, you might have a point there. But they are classic films. Is that where you drew a lot of your inspiration from? And what other films have inspired you?
But yeah, to be honest, because I'm a collector, and I remember when Vipco's like the DVD. I remember when DVD launched. So when DVD launched, Vipco was like one of the first distributors to release these kind of horror films, the old band video nasties and stuff. Which is why, again, I used to. So that was my first real love of collecting labels. Now it's moved on to a lot of other boutiques, but they were like my introductory to it. So I have a lot of fun films and memories from that. Like Cannibal Holocaust was a really big influential film, which was on the Vipco label. So that's and I have a big poster of that up in the house. So that's quite an inspiring film because of it was groundbreaking and the whole found footage phenomenon with it. And so that film stood out a lot for me and Vipco. But then also I love I'm a lover of all cinema, so I like a lot of art house films as well, and drama and stuff by Gaspar Noé. He's like filmmakers that really kind of push boundaries and challenge, and like Lars von Trier's stuff's quite intense as well. And I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah, that is an excellent film. Fun enough, we had a guy on last week, Vic Ferrari. He's an author, and he's a huge Gary Oldman fan. You know, I mean, I think he's a big fan of that film as well.
Yeah.
So, Dave, horror films. Were you a fan back in the day? I know me and Gaz used to watch a few. I don't recall you being a big fan of them.
No, never have been. And ahead of this episode, I'd looked on your YouTube channel, Jason, and just having a look around there. And there's a couple of questions I want to ask. One is horror for me. I always struggled to get into it and see the fear. And I don't know if I struggle to see the distinction between horror and getting scared and just making you jump. And I don't know from your perspective as a filmmaker and a film lover whether those go side by side, whether the horror and the fear has to have the jumping, or the making you jump is just lazy filmmaking because it's not having that sort of fear and that build of tension. So where does that fit?
I've personally never really been that affected by horror films like some people have. They've never really, and I watched them from a young age. But obviously, I've spoke to a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are terrified by certain films. I do think jump scares can be a lazy trick, especially if you're sitting in a packed cinema and you see everyone jump and scream. I don't get caught out too often on those, but I've seen the reaction, and I think to me, that's not scary. I find scary a film that stays with you, a film that will make you think, or it deals with themes that are probably more realistic and close to home. I find that's scary to me. A film that dares challenge something important. But horror, I like horror for a few reasons. Making horror films is an easy option in some respects because you can get away with being cheesy and crap. Like horror's a market, it always sells. So if I'm trying to get a film released, although I've done a mixed genre of films, horror is always one that I can push to distributors. So that there is part of that going through it. You can get away with a lot of stuff as long as you deliver the goods, like a bit of gore or stuff like that. You can get away with other stuff. But yes, I think some filmmakers that to me, to try and get a horror right is being atmospheric. So like lighting and sound is really important, although that's really hard, especially on independent film. Sound is a tricky area, but getting really good sound and scary like music and effects and the lighting's key, and performances can be good as well, because some cheap end horror doesn't always have the best performances, but it's a combination of making a really solid piece of work. There is a lot of horror to me that's not scary, especially the indie stuff, but even the mainstream falls down the rabbit hole of comedy horror. They put a lot of gags in, so to me it's just light-hearted. There's not many true films that I think are that terrifying. There's a few, I think, I don't think it's scary, but I think an impactful film that's quite challenging is like The Exorcist. The original Exorcist is it's a well-crafted film. There's not even really a soundtrack to that, only tubular bells for that one little bit. It's all, and that's a brave move. So the fact that it's that strong without a soundtrack and people still remember that, because it was so terrifying in that sense. I suppose define terrifying. To me, I wasn't scared, but I found it quite shocking and intense. So it's similar reaction, I suppose.
So it's got to be a good film in its own right, like any good film. But also, if it gives you nightmares when you get home, that's a sort of tick box for you've done your job. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I suppose some filmmakers have an easier time, like a lot of people are scared of clowns. That's a known phobia. So if you're making a film like it or featuring a clown, then yeah, it's you're onto a winner already. Yeah, I think it's good to make an all-round good product though. That that solves it together, including the editing as well.
It's strange because sort of back in the day, you'd grow up and you'd watch your Halloween films and you'd watch your Friday the 13th and you'd watch your, I suppose, Nightmare on Elm Street, you sort of slasher, I suppose, type movies. And then I suppose the flip side to that was you'd get, and there was a film that, so obviously Poltergeist isn't is it horror? No, probably not, but it's one of those things that makes you think, ooh, like it's not slasher as in like gore, which I grew up and I watched loads of sort of slasher films and stuff, and it didn't scare me. Whereas films that challenged your thoughts and your perceptions of various things. So the one I remember watching was, and I think it's banned for ages, was I Spit on Your Grave, which is it's I suppose harrowing as opposed to scary or frightening or horror, if that makes sense, and it challenges your perception of oh crikey, and you watch it, you think, I'm not so sure I enjoyed that. And it was that type of challenging film. And I suppose it is I don't know. Is it classed as a horror film? I don't even really know. Would it be classed in that genre? Is it like a lost footage type thing? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I Spit on Your Grave. The original is that's an interesting one. So because my film got caught up in that sort of thing. So the original I do really like that because I think it's a really well made film. Again, it's a film that doesn't have a soundtrack. It's very raw. And I have a big canvas of that actually in front of me right now on my thing, and I just thought that was a really well made film. Although it was very shocking and the world's changed a lot. The film is a bit hated upon now because of it, but it's a mixed bag because it became a video nasty, and it was the original title was supposed to be Day of the Woman, which was more empowering. But again, this is distributors which they've done to me. They changed the title to cash in on. I Spit on Your Grave just sounds more sellable and more like I want to see this trash film. Which I know the director hates that title, but the film, it is classed as a horror, but it's like a real life horror. And whole subgenre of rape and revenge films, and I grew up on a lot of the video nasties was quite a big deal with me growing up. I used that as a collector's list and the films to seek out, and I Spit on Your Grave left such an impact. It kind of influenced Tortured a little bit. So my film Tortured actually has very similar has a big similar scene in that, and I knew that was going to shock people and annoy people, and I was going to get. But the remake wasn't on the cards at the time. So when I made my film, there was no announcement. And then while my film had been finished and I was trying to get distribution, the remake came about of I Spit on Your Grave. And so the distributor jumped on the bandwagon because a review was done for my film saying it's I Spit on Your Grave meets Dawn of the Dead. And they shoved that on the case, and they actually made a very similar case with half the silhouette of a woman standing there looking behind. So it literally, and I didn't know this was not my doing, but they actually ripped the I Spit on Your Grave case off on my film and pushed that through, which I do believe that probably drove quite a lot of sales and actually did get my film more notorious, because it rode a little bit off the back of the I Spit on Your Grave sort of. Still, the original is still cut to this day in this country, although it's available. It's still censored slightly, so a film made in 78 is still getting still cut up. Although my film is also in trouble in the UK. I couldn't get it uncut in the UK myself. So,
is that right? So yours, you still, the full version is not available in the UK of your film?
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble. So to be honest, I knew I was writing quite a shocking script. I on purposely was, and it was years ago, so I was a lot more of a crazed younger filmmaker going, I'm going to shock people. And I thought that was harder to do because a lot had been done. So there's a lot of films that have already been and gone. So I tried to up the ante, thinking, but things that I didn't expect happened. So I made the film and we screened it. There was a premiere in London, which there was a few that walked out of. One of the main actors brought some friends and some girls with him, and they left. Was quite offended. So that was the start of people. I got mixed reviews. Like, people did like it, but then people were like, that's too far, that's too much. And I knew I'd have trouble in the UK, but I sent it to a distributor that was like linked with the Golden Gates of Warner. It was like a little sub label that was they normally do straight to DVDs, and they rang me up quite stressed out, saying the dialogue was bad. So I had to cut the film and some of the actual dialogue conversations. They said it was too graphic what they were talking about, and so there was a cut version, and then there was a really heavily cut version, and then there is an uncut, which apparently still got into trouble the other year when it got re-released. The distributor, without me knowing, did a cut version for like Walmart and Amazon, and the uncut version was kept exclusive to their website because they still said they were going to have trouble selling that title like that. So,
there you go.
On that point of being cut, this is my second question to you, really. That when I was talking with my family, so it was my kids, teenagers, my mother, my brother, and my nephew and niece, and I was telling them I was coming on this podcast with Jason Impey, and he makes horror films. And Alice, my daughter's not really into horror films, but she's into true crimes and things like that. She said, I can come on to it. And my nephew says, what sort of films? I said, it's horror, and I've seen that on YouTube. She's got snuff movies and things like that. And he says, and you want Alice to go on that? I said, well, why not? He says, do you know what a snuff movie is? I said, isn't it just dead people? He says, it's a bit more than that. Two definitions.
Life lessons.
Two definitions. If you could explain to me, to educate me, because I don't really know, what a snuff movie is in the broader sense, as opposed to what you labelled on your YouTube channel. And also you use the term video nasty. I don't actually know what that is either, so be interested to know what those two things are.
Right, yeah. So the video nasty is basically in the mid 80s there was a boom of videos in the late 70s, early 80s. Video became a big thing. Everyone was getting them in their houses, and it wasn't regulated. There was no rating system, so anyone over 18 could pretty much buy anything that was getting put out, and garages were selling them, and corner shops everywhere had these videos. And there was a lot of distributors, and actually Vipco was around at this time as well on the video market, and they kind of caused this controversy. They put Driller Killer out with a guy's head getting drilled on the front cover, and good old Mary Whitehouse, who was quite the campaigner for silencing things. These videos were getting the titles, like I Spit on Your Grave was changed for that title. These titles were getting notorious. There was a lot of talk about these films, and in the end it resulted in a rating system being invented for home video. The BBFC kind of got more power. The Video Recordings Act was passed, and they basically had to reclassify every film that had ever been made. But due to this, they picked on a certain amount of what became the video nasties, and there were 39 films out of what they gathered that were actually prosecuted that become the DPP list. So they actually successfully prosecuted them for being obscene. Now some of these films are rated 15, and a lot of them are all back out now. But at the time, The politicians said that they were upsetting dogs. They were resulting in violence and people getting driven mad, and they were very worried about the damage these videos were having on people. So there was a group of films that became the video nasties, and a lot of them are like Cannibal Holocaust and Ferox and Zombie Flesh Eaters and all these. A lot of Italian ultra gory films were caught up in this. And they became a bit cult status. To be honest, some of these films are quite crap now that they become so infamous because of the video nasties. They become cults in their own right. And then the snuff genre, which ironically there is a film called Snuff in the video nasties. That's a whole. I'm quite I know a lot about snuff films because I focused a lot on violence in the media at my film and media studies, so I'm actually quite hot on this subject. And it's I've had a lot of arguments with people about this because actually, truthfully, a snuff film, which there's never been a reported case of a real snuff or actually anyone being arrested for it, so it's a bit of an urban legend. I'm probably sure it's happened, but there is actually no actual case. To actually qualify for a snuff film, you have to shoot a film where someone is actually raped and tortured for real on camera, and then it has to be distributed to a paying audience, and that becomes a snuff film. That's actually, no one's ever been arrested and tried for that. It's actually never a known thing. But the film, which was called Snuff, bragged that it was real. It wasn't real, but the marketing campaign is that there was a real murder on it, and it got released before the rating system come in. It became a very hot film. There was an investigation to see if it was real because they thought it was. It was, and then so there was a whole subgenre born of snuff film. They're really fake snuff films. So, but there's a lot of misconceptions really in the world of film. If you say it's like a fake snuff, they just expect like a torture movie, like Hostel, but found footage style. So it's normally like it comes across as a homemade movie with normally a woman tied up getting tortured, and that was quite a big thing in the mid noughties, like 2004 to 2010. That you get like fashions with films. You get the zombies that were around for a while. Then you had the torture porn of like Hostel and Saw and stuff, and those snuff films boom then. And then it goes into your kind of more like ghostly horror, and it always does a circle. It will probably come back round in a few years, but but it is a misconception. And again, a lot of films I've made come back to haunt me because there is a new generation that a little bit, they're not so up on the nasties and the snuff. They don't always quite know the history anymore, and so they just see these crazy films that you're responsible for, but they're actually quite tame and silly, some of them, to be honest.
Yeah, those video nasties are films, like you say, same as yourself. I grew up watching. So like the one that Gaz mentioned there, I Spit on Your Grave. The one for me really that resonated, which I thought was probably better than that, was Last House on the Left, obviously, which, Wes Craven and Sean S. Cunningham's first movie together. And I found that fantastic and quite unnerving at times. Some of the acting in that is ultra realistic. But Dave, some of the films that actually got banned, one of the films that got banned amongst that by Mary Whitehouse was The Greatest Little Whorehouse in Texas, which is a Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton film, which accidentally got picked up on it. But someone had seen the title and thought, no, we're not having that. And then actually it turned out to be a musical featuring Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds, which is a very, very different thing. So some of those movies there that we've just mentioned, I Spit on Your Grave, like I say, obviously that's inspired some of your movies. The Exorcist you talked about, which for me is one of the scariest films. It's unnerving, and like you say, some of the cinematography in that is phenomenal. The bit where he walks into the room and rather than it being the girl on the bed, it is his dead mother. And it's filmed in an icebox, isn't it? So you can see their breath. And I just remember that. And like you say, no soundtrack, just the silence. And it is really, really uncomfortable. When you watch these films, do you think, are you watching it and taking it and enjoying it? Or you think, well, how did he do that? How did he do this? Are you analysing it?
I am, and to be honest, I did it from a young age. I do try and sit back and enjoy and watch a film, and I do, but I always do. It's always ticking in my head, like, why did they shoot it that way? That's what kind of got me into film, interesting choice of camera shot, interesting edits. And so however much I try to switch off, I am constantly analysing, why have they gone in that direction? What's the hidden meaning? So yeah, it's you can never really switch that off once you start.
Oh, I bet. And what with your films then? Which scene have you done where you thought you've jotted it down maybe like 6 months before when you're writing the script, and then you've gone to film it and you thought, I have absolutely nailed that. It's exactly how I envisaged it. Have you got one scene that sticks out in your mind that is exactly how you want it to turn out?
Sort of. I'm always critical of my own work, but there is the again going back to Torture. That was, if you look at my script that I wrote before it, that is almost identical. It's the only time I've done that. I tried to, but that's the only film where actually the script from page to screen is is spot on, really. I'd still like to tweak it if I ever got a chance that, but it's the closest I've ever come to how I did envision it on the best that I could.
Yeah, fair play. And are you working on anything at the moment?
Yeah, I'm editing a film called The Bleed, which is an art house horror film, which I shot last year, so that should be edited. That should be finished soon. And I have actually done a short film called An Autistic Film, which is playing at the festivals at the moment and just picked up an award. And I am hoping to that was the start. My idea is to make that a bigger drama film, which again I'm working on trying to expand, and yeah, hopefully can get shooting that this year.
Yeah, I'd seen that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it and a little bit of the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so I've had the idea for a few years, and it was trying to get a film off the ground could be quite challenging. And the last few years, I've been trying to balance it with like work and like the paid gigs and what brings in the better stuff. But I wanted to make a drama film, and I got an opportunity to make a short on film, which I'd not done for ages, actually shooting on Super 8 Reel. And I had a producer that he gave me he helped me get it going. He did a bit of funding. This guy called Martin W. Payne. He actually is quite a supportive guy, and he I thought, right, I'm going to use the opportunity to make a short version of this idea I had, so at least I can at least stamp it, IMDb it, and say that before anything happens, because for 2 years I've been going on quite quietly to people going, oh, I'm going to cast you in this, I want to do that. So I managed to at least do a short which gets the word out there and stamp that this is something I'm doing. And the short is okay, but I have so many ideas I want to put into it and expand it. But it essentially is the first film that features autistic people, made by autistic people, and actually deals with the subject of autism properly, rather than the misconceptions that are in film and TV, which is massive of. And it is quite close to home because I myself am autistic, which shocks a lot of people, and I've had a lot of issues with prejudice and people not understanding it, and so I'm like, my film is trying to actually highlight a lot of these unanswered questions, and so it's actually quite a personal pet project to me, and it's quite different as well. Although I am known for horror, and I did do a hell of a lot of horror when I was younger, but I have done a lot of drama as well. But some of that's also been mixed up because some of it was in mixed. I'm a mixed genre person. I've mixed a lot of genres and blended films, but some of my later filmography, although I always have a little route to horror, I have gone into a fair bit of drama and other stuff I've worked on, and this is quite a friendly drama as well, if I'm honest. So it's quite I don't have to hide this one as much. It's got a bigger audience, which is also good. I can push it a lot further.
No zombies and those necrophiliacs in that, then, no.
It's quite a clean cut film.
You just mentioned there, Jason, that you use the words "you don't have to hide it as much." Is that like it's harder to shout about the other films because of your other career interests, but is it also the subject matter isn't going to get onto ITV or BBC One necessarily? I mean, have you got ambitions, or have you actually been on sort of mainstream TV with any of your dramas? Was that an ambition, or was it done already?
So I when I was younger, I did a lot of work for the TV studios. I actually did a bit of work for Disney as well and stuff. I actually won a best film for a short zombie film when I was working at Disney. They weren't overly impressed at that. Yeah, I was like, all right. I was naive when I was young as well, so I didn't. The world was changing when I was first making films. There was no Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, so I was having to like send VHS masters out and stuff. But to base, I'm proud of all what I've done, and I try and push it. But the last few years, where the world was changing, I got banned off YouTube for 6 months. I've had several strikes on Facebook, strikes on TikTok, all to do with my film trailers, film posters, even. And I was like, "Oh, right, this is actually," it was getting. I was losing a lot of stuff, so I tried to censor and rein it in a bit because obviously I didn't want to. I'd spent years building up accounts, and I've got fans that had been very loyal and following my work. I didn't want to like lose all my online presence, so I thought I felt like I was having to try and be very selective on the images and trailers I was using for my films now, and so and some of the festivals, because I'd had some feedback and there'd been screenings of walkouts, I was very selective on what I sent where, because I didn't want to keep getting walkouts or offending, or I'd been rejected from one local area. They wanted to play one of my films and a local council banned it, so they couldn't even play my film at a festival. So I've tried to I have tried to do stuff that I won't have to face those problems with, because obviously, being a filmmaker, I do like to get my work out there and shown to an audience. Having these like battles of and being in the UK, I like to get released. But saying that, there was a film I co-produced last year and I shot and edited, and that gets released next month on Sky Store and iTunes and all of that. So that's got a much bigger platform and is hitting the bigger platforms like I wanted, fortunately. And again, that's a British crime drama. And it's I'd probably say a 15 at most, so it's quite again, it's not too bad.
What's that one called?
Legacy. It's called Legacy.
Legacy. Sorry, guys.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, throughout your filmmaking sort of career as such, and I know you've mentioned you've got a couple of books coming to projects and stuff, but has there been, or is there a labour of love that you really wish you've had the opportunity to shoot that you haven't yet and it hasn't quite materialised? Is there something that you think, I really, really, really want to make this film, or I really, really, really want to make this documentary, or this whatever it may be, that for whatever reason, that either the cast or the budget or the timing or whatever it is, you've been involved in other projects. I'm just curious, is there something just sitting there in your mind thinking, I have to get this done, this is the sort of film I want to make and I have to get it done?
Yeah, that a little bit. My autistic film, I want to make the feature drama version of that. It's been sitting there for a few years, and I have got so many ideas, and it has been time restraint, and it has also been hard getting cast. But I'm determined this time. I've got the ball rolling. I am determined to do it, and as always, I would like to do a kind of bigger action film with more stunts and more kind of car rolls and that. But that's down to, again, a lot of budget restraints and raising funds. But I'm quite a fighter. I still pursue. I'm not gonna. I will keep fighting until I kind of get there.
Yeah, fair play. So, how hard is it then to go out there and actually raise finances for a film? I mean, especially now when we know like purse strings are a little bit tighter, it must be quite challenging.
Yes, it's extremely difficult. I've had private investment before myself. I've been hired and worked on other films where it's a mixture. They've had producers that have raised a bit of money, but again, that normally comes from several places, and investors that want a return technically, which is also a gamble to get a return from indie film. And then I have worked on some stuff that has fortunately had a bit of funding. Sometimes it's come from the arts councils, like with the lottery funding and that. But that is really hard to get, because you have to tick so many boxes and jump through so many hoops to hit their criteria. You almost lose what you were doing, and you lose control, because although you might get your film made or work on it, you're not allowed to edit it. You're not allowed the final cut say. So you do sell your soul a little bit with that. And then there's beg, borrow, and steal method, which I've ended up doing myself. And I know, and distributors, again, I have been fortunate to have advances before where they have gave a bit of an advance to make if they're releasing it. Royalties and buyouts are also another. These are all kind of very controversial areas of filmmakers, because it's a forever changing world, especially with digital now, because physical media is really dying, and digital film is bigger than ever and is being received, but you're not getting as much back from digital as you was physical. Although there's less overheads for the filmmakers themselves, it's quite it's a double-edged dagger, really. It's interesting times. I'm curious as to where it's going to go, if I'm honest, because I'm a big collector, and I've grown up with physical media, but I have noticed, especially some of the teaching I've been doing and talking to people, they're all just streaming. Even cinema is quite quiet these days as well. It really is at home streaming, which is quite shocking to me.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I had a huge DVD collection, and when we redid the lounge, the wife said literally, "It's got to go." You know, you got to music magpie a lot of it, which some of it was easier to let go of it than some things. You know, I every now and then I think I get pangs because they aren't the stuff that I like. I used to have like the box of the band, those sort of DVDs. They aren't available. You know, you can't just stream them anywhere, and it's a bloody nightmare. And that in itself is costly itself because you can't. There isn't just one streaming platform where you can get everything that you want on it. And this is my pitch. If anybody out there is listening to it, something like Spotify, but for films. You know, where you get everything, literally everything. You pay one fee and you can watch whatever the hell you want because that needs to happen. It's daylight robbery. It is daylight robbery at the moment. So just to take you back then, sorry, before I get my eye horse again, Legacy, the film that you're making, because there's some big names in that as well, isn't there? There was one of the guys. I was watching the trailer earlier. So I've been off work today. I've got fortunate to get a bonus day off. I say fortunate, my little lad wasn't well, so I had to take the day off, and I'm working Friday now instead. But yeah. But the film Legacy, I was watching some of the trailers for that, and there was a guy in that I recognised from the world of crime himself. How did you find working with him?
Yeah, Dave Courtney is in Legacy.
Yeah.
I'd worked with him before. He's quite a character. We actually went to Camelot Castle and filmed that in London, the infamous Camelot Castle with the firm.
Wow.
So yeah, one of the when I worked with him before, it was a similar situation. One of the people involved in the production got hold of him, or they knew someone who knew him as well, and he's quite accommodating, and because he's got quite the filmography of acting as well. We not only got him in it, we actually went and filmed him at his place to accommodate, but then it gave us the location and we was able to use as some of the sets, and obviously that really helps the film as well, the fact that he's in it, because that's what helped push it into the further distribution realm. So it was good fun, also challenging. There is some stories on some of those shoots that can be told.
But I'm guessing you're not willing to share them on a podcast.
Maybe not all of them, possibly.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, it's something I wouldn't mind to be a part of. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, that is one of the things I was going to say to you. If ever you need 3 extras, you know what I mean, one of these zombie movies, because it wouldn't require that much makeup for myself. I tell you what, I'll be up for that. I'll be. Where are you,
based? Dude. You think all I'm thinking is you're ordained, so if ever you need an actual practicing sort of person of the cloth to star in whether it's a spooky horror or whatever, you can get yourself all decked out, can't you? You'd be good for that, wouldn't you, dude?
Yeah, if any of your films call for a genuine vicar, I can do that. I can do that. He's very quiet on this one.
That's just because he's thinking absolutely no way.
Jason, I'm just interested. You were talking about budgets a while ago and how difficult it is to raise money. So I've got no idea what it would cost. So if it was let's say a 60-minute film you were making, and let's say you didn't have the car crashing and chases, which I guess is where it starts to get really expensive. What sort of money would you have to raise in order to make that kind of film that's about an hour long?
Easily a few thousand, to be honest, even for quite simple stuff, especially if it's feature length. I mean, distributors like you to get to an hour and a half. Really, they like to push for that length, even if you're milking some walking scenes out, which I've done, and slow title scrolling. But you can. Most of those have been a few £1,000. To be honest, a similar one was about 50k, and that was a straight-laced drama, 90-minute film with again just a kind of lot of sets and talking, but quite minimalistic in some respects.
That surprised me, actually. I thought it'd be more than that. I mean, is that including like paying for yourself and your actors and your cast? Is it that seems like not a lot of money to me.
No, not if you make it go far. So fortunately, I own a lot of the equipment, which is a massive cost taken off, because I freelance and I get hired to film and edit. All the equipment's kind of included for me, so I haven't got to worry about those costs. Which that makes a huge difference, because if you was having to rent all the equipment out, then yeah, it would skyrocket. And with time, ideally, there's never enough time. That's one of my biggest enemies. You'd always want more time to film, but you can if you're really fast moving and you're trying to keep it simplistic, and you're doing long days, like working people longer than they should be on an 18-hour day, then you can get through it in a few days rather than a few weeks. So it's just about condensing everything to try and make it feasible. Otherwise, it's one of those hard situations where if you don't do it, you just won't. If you keep trying to hold out for more money or trying to make things work, in the end, I've got impatient myself, grabbed it and gone, we're just going to start, or we're going to just kind of get it shot, or it's not going to happen.
I think you mentioned in I think that's right in one of the clips on YouTube, or it might have been I watched an interview I think you'd done. You said that one film you'd made it completely in, was it 72 hours start to finish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which seems crazy to go from nothing to finished film in 72 hours.
So I've done a few of these kind of mad things actually, which people probably don't believe. So the 72-hour one I did last, that would have been just over a year ago. That was for a challenge initially. I got coaxed into, because I've been doing a lot of drama films. I had a group of close friends that wanted me to go back to my roots, and they entered a film festival and competition where you're given a theme, and you have 72 hours from where you have a meeting to literally submit this master that's going to be screened at the festival. And so all rules are off. You literally, like, they set the time and you've got to go. And it can be anything. It could have been like a short film. Ideally, it's got to be like a crazy. It was called Sick and Wrong, the festival. It was supposed to be like a throwback to Video Nasties, which is why they coaxed me into doing it. And so they unleashed my wild side, and I sat there all night thinking of the concept and how I could, with what themes I was given, how I could work it in. And I came up with an idea that I thought I could execute as a feature, which was ridiculously ambitious, but I thought I know how I can do it. We had a location, we had a whole house we could use, and I thought, right, I went there early. I went around to every room, set the lights, I preset everything, and I just ran like a James Cameron tyrant that day and marched everyone around, and I shot a whole feature, edited it the next day because I was shooting to the edit really tightly in my head because I was doing both the filming and editing, and I managed just in a nick of time to. It was an hour and 3 minutes long. Came in as a feature film, and but I thought that was quite impressive. But it's because I've got form on that. I'd made a feature in a day before where the editing took about a week, but the filming I managed to get in a day. It was a prison drama film, all set in a prison cell. So I managed to. The way I got away with that is I did 12 long shots. So I was moving with a little rig on me, like a bit of a steady cam, and we just played it out. So there was just 12 shots initially. It was like a theatre play, so there was 4 actors in it, and I was moving with it. It was still challenging and quite a long day, but managed to do it.
And that's pretty impressive, to be fair, to manage to do that, just to have the creative side, the storytelling side, the technical and directing and the editing, and to put all of that together. I mean, that's some talent, that is.
Well, it's interesting because I've worked my balls off for some stuff, and you get a little reward. Whereas that film that I shot in 12 shots, that's one of the biggest selling films I've ever done, and get for. So the kind of stupid experiment that was a bit throwaway ended up becoming quite notorious.
Nice.
Fair play. So you're talking there as well. You mentioned as well about reviews, and we get it ourselves, obviously, as a podcast. You get feedback. And it's lovely to get the nice feedback, but we also get the negative feedback as well. And I'm not going to say it's lovely to get it, but it is useful because we can then work on it. We've rechanged our format just recently based on some negative feedback that we got. And we looked at it and we said, actually, do you know what? That does actually make sense. We'll take that on board. For yourself, what's it like when you get a bad review on one of your films? Do you take it personally, or do you look at it in the cold light of day and think, yeah, they might have a point there?
I must admit, when I was younger, I used to get quite hurt by some feedback. Obviously, I knew I was going to get certain reviews, but when the world got smaller and my films are getting more out there was a lot of negative and bad that come with it, because there was people watching the film comparing it to like Transformers at the cinema, big blockbuster movies, and I'm thinking I'm not in that league, or I want to be, or I've been involved with stuff, but my personal little film here is nowhere near on that level. So they were being really critical of everything I felt, like even though I'd worked for years and tried my hardest. So and it got me down quite a lot, thinking how can I can't make it like that good on little So, but then I learned that every filmmaker gets that. The more I was into film and film reviewing and critiquing it, even the biggest and best films get negative. So I was thinking, oh, you know what, it just happens. And if there is something constructive, I will listen. But to be honest, sometimes I know myself. I know it's not great, and I know the flaws, and I myself want to go back. But there has been some ridiculous ones, like personal attacks I've seen, and I don't know why, if it's just haters of that. But they are reviews, but people get mad, like I need to be slapped around the face with a camera and things like that. I've read myself on Amazon the reviews about me, and I'm like, well, I don't know these people, so some of the reviews are less than helpful. But I did learn to embrace them, and I've shared them. I have like groups and Facebook pages, and I'll actually put the reviews out there, because sometimes people actually said, oh, they want to see the film now, even if it's crap, because it makes them curious. If it's that bad, they want to see it. So it does me a favor sometimes.
Funnily enough, there was a pub in Crewe very near us, and there was one guy. And obviously he took exception to it. It was a craft beer place, so the beer is a little bit expensive, and he took exception to that. And he used to absolutely pan them almost on a daily basis on the different places that you can do, like TripAdvisor and what have you. And they used to take his reviews and put them on the back of beer mats. So you go in there and you got his review on the back of the beer mat, and that's it. It just said it all. And I thought, you know what, fair play to you, fair play. That's the right way to take it.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to ask you, Jason, was we've spoken a lot about budgets and the issues that you've had with raising budgets and this, that, and the other. If I suppose it's $1 million question to a filmmaker, if budget was no option and you were able to go out and get what it is that you wanted, would that change the type of films that you would make? Would you make similar films? How would that affect what you do as a filmmaker?
I would indulge myself on the shoot, so I would actually set up better shots, if not, and I would take my time more and get like what's classed as more perfect shots. Whereas sometimes without budget and you're panicking, you film to cover yourself. So I've gone and filmed the scenes several times just so I know I can edit it together. If I had the budget to play with, so I could get a better set or that, then I would actually, I'd make it much more craftsmanship, really. So. I would still like to explore the themes I explore, and I am happy with what I do. But yeah, I would like to just make that whole vision better, and I feel like I could sell it more, because I'm really into my visual technical storytelling, and obviously on a budget, sometimes you feel like you're restrained because you don't want to show too much of something on a budget sometimes, because it might look cheap, or the set or the prop might, if you linger too much, you'll start seeing the cracks.
Right.
Interesting one then. When you say about the props, I was watching one of your films the other night, and I watched Zombie Lover the other night. Just I thought a great title, and I watched it with a wife. I thought she's not going to want to watch Necrophilia, The Lustful Dead. You know what I mean? That's the one I wanted to pick, but I knew she was. I knew I'd be pushing me luck, so I stuck Zombie Lover on. And some of the guns in that look really realistic. I'm not planning on holding up a post office or anything, but like, where do you pick up stuff like that from?
They were blank firers, and the producer actually had those. They were existing props he had from another film, and I've noticed a few filmmakers that I've worked with that they've gathered props up over the years, and they literally have boxes of them. And he happened to have quite a few weapons from an action film he had been involved with many years ago, which was very handy. So he was able to bring all these. Nice. To be honest, when I did Tortured, the two henchmen in that they have handguns on them and knives and stuff. They're kitted up, and we'd had a very long day. It'd been 18 odd hours so far, and we'd filmed all the hard stuff. So I said, "Oh, we'll grab some food on the way to the next setup and stuff." So we stopped at a fast food restaurant on the way, and they went in there with me. So me and the producer at the counter were these two actors who were still in their costume and still quite in the zone. And one of them plays quite a nasty guy. But what I didn't realise is he still had his gun on him. We hadn't de-armed, and he needed the toilet, and he's gone in there going like, where's the toilet? And he said round there, and he the guy looked a bit shifty behind the counter, and So my actor's gone to the toilet and the door was a bit wedged, and he's like pushing and banging it. And I don't know. I think he was tired and a bit in character, and he come across quite stroppy. And he's going, "What's going on with this goddamn door? Why won't it open?" And I noticed the whole restaurant had gone silent. Like all the kids and the parents are sat there. And I'm quite observant, and I was looking around thinking something can't right here. And the guy was panicking behind the counter, like getting the door open for him. And I realised that he's like throwing himself around. His jacket kept moving, and you could see this hand, like real gun on him, and a knife. And everyone was like on the tables, and we were ordering food. And I said, I noticed it, and I said right to the producer, let's just throw the money, get this food, and let's just get the hell out of here before they see what car in and where we are. And they quickly was throwing all the food at us. We threw him a note, and when he come out the toilet, we whisked out of there and we were away. And so I was thinking we're going to get like into some serious trouble here.
Jesus.
And I had another one on Tortured. We were filming on the side of a road. There was a scene where the guy's getting roughed up, and I didn't really. It was a bit guerrilla. This was a pickup day, and I was just trying to get it done, so I hadn't really got permission to be there, and I didn't really think much of it. But even because there's two cameras, there's a big boom. It's obviously a film shoot to me, but either way, people have drove past and phoned the police that someone's getting like up on the side of the road. And just as we had finished and we're pulling out, a cop pulled in and asked what we were doing, and I realised that I had a whole car full of guns, samurai swords, and I thought I can't explain this, so I'm going to get into trouble. So luckily, I managed to blag that it was a student film from my old college, which was down the road. And I gave them my tutor's name, the phone. They didn't search the car because I was sitting there for 10 minutes sweating, thinking, "This is the end of this film."
Do you, Sean, on the back of that, do you need, and excuse my ignorance, if you're going to use somewhere as a film set, do you need a license? Can you just rock up and film there? How does that even work?
You're supposed to have a permit. You are supposed to get permission, and the authorities are supposed to be informed, and it is all supposed to be kosher. To be honest, a lot of people in indie worlds don't. I have filmed properly, but it gets to the point where if you need to just get something done or seen, you should. But we were guerrilla in it. We certainly shouldn't have been doing it with those props, but it was out the way. I wasn't. To me, I weren't in a public space. We was away, but people from the main road were looking over, and I guess they saw a guy just getting shaken about violently. But yeah, it's not so bad if you've not got these sort of props. Police turn up many times on my film shoots where people have called them in. It became common occurrence for a while, to be honest.
Fair play. Well, we like to keep these episodes to around about an hour, so we're roughly around about the hour mark. So what I am going to do, if that's all right with everybody, is add a bit of commerciality and give a little quick shout out to our sponsors. So if you like your olives, your nuts, your pretzels, or your chocolate covered pretzels, head over to ollies-ollies.com, which is Ollie's Snacks. If you're based in the UK and you use the promo code TallBoyRadio, all one word and all capitals, you will get a 20% discount off your order. And with every order placed on their website, they donate a school meal, to a child in need with the help of One Feeds Two. And while we're on that, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our socials before I ask Jason to do the same. So you can find us at Tallboy Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and at Tallboy Radio Podcast on Instagram, and obviously tallboyradio.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, drop us a message and let us know, and ask any other questions or any guests that you want to hear more from. Shout them up. We'll get them back on again. Mail at tallboyradio.com is our email address. So Jason, do you want to give a shout out then while we're doing that to your different social medias and where people can find your stuff?
Yeah, Jason666 Films is pretty much how you find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. That's my tag handle on most things. So and YouTube has a lot of my trailers and behind the scenes, a lot more stuff coming soon. And Instagram, you can see my massive film collection, the never-ending growing collection.
Indeed, and you still adding to that, yeah?
I am. Yeah, I've peaked over 4,000 discs for sure, because I've got the app where I'm starting to log, and I've got my letterbox list, which again I'm around on letterbox if you want to look up. And it's gone over 4,000 now, so I own quite a few movies.
Yeah, fair play. That is a few. So guys, then what we always do as well, Jason, is we always share which beer we've been drinking throughout the episode. So Dave, do you want to get your Tawdry 0% stuff out of the way?
Yeah, sorry guys, it's a bit of a letdown. It's the 0% left again, and I got this. It's called Nothing Comes from Nothing, a 0.05% IPA, and it's not very nice actually. It's a bit. I don't really know what it tastes like, but it's not
because
very
you're
nice.
lacking alcohol, Dave. That's what it is.
It's clearly not helping, but that's my drink. But Jason, pleasure, absolute pleasure to have you on and listen to it. And it's fascinating. It's not a genre I watch, and I probably won't start watching it because it just doesn't really appeal to me. But listening to you, it's absolutely fascinating. I think what you do is pretty awesome, and you're obviously a very talented guy. So good on you.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll echo that. What Dave just said. It's great when we have guests on. It's great to see guests that sort of follow their passion, follow their dreams, and have a real passion for what they do and enjoy what they do. I love having guests on. I've drank a 5.4% Beavertown Gamma Ray, which is lovely. I haven't had that for a while actually. And then just to put Dave to shame, who had the 0.0, I've had the wine bottle size of left, which is 6.6% of absolute dreamy goodness. So one of my favourite beers. So love that drink. Yeah.
Indeed. And the beer I've chosen for today, because it's actually the 200th different beer I've drank on a podcast. So Vocation are coming up to their 7th anniversary, and they've released a special beer to celebrate that, and that's what I've been drinking tonight. And I don't know if they've been listening to our podcast, guys. They've been taking on your stupid ideas of mint-flavored beer. So I've been drinking a mint. Yeah, well, in all fairness, actually, it's a really good beer. It's a mint chocolate stout, and it's barrel aged, and it comes in at a 12.2%. So it makes up a little bit for what Dave's been drinking. So
it's
yeah,
funny because I popped over to yours for dinner over the weekend or whenever it was, and you showed me that, and I was like, mint. I like beer, and I like mint. Why not just put them together? Because that sounds like a match made in heaven. And we were like, we've always had this ongoing thing, Jason, where sort of mint is one of those flavors that doesn't really. There aren't many mint flavored beers, and we've had this conversation on various podcasts before now and stuff. And Adam obviously got one. I was like, dude, that sounds epic. It's like a mint stout beer, but it's 12.2%. So I said, maybe you should only drink one. He's like, I've got 3. I was like, all right, well, okay. I don't think he's drank all 3 tonight, though, looking at him. But
yeah, I'm about halfway down the 3rd one. I've got to tell you, it's a decent beer. It is a decent beer. Don't get me wrong. It's a little bit like, it's got a little flavour of you like eating a pack of matchmakers and drinking a pint of Guinness, but a little bit thicker. But I'm not selling it very well there. So, Jason, anyway, just to leave with some final thoughts for us. So, first of all, I'm very excited to see the film that you're making about autism. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. It's wonderful. And it's something that we've covered a lot of issues like this on our podcast. We do a lot of daft episodes, but we do a lot of sensible episodes as well. So we'll absolutely applaud you on that one. And also, I've enjoyed your output. I enjoyed Sick Bastard when I got it free with the magazine back then, and like I say, I enjoyed Zombie Lover the other night, and I'll probably enjoy a few more as well, no doubt. So, what else have you got on the cards then for 2023? Anything interesting other than those?
I try and keep myself busy. There's going to be a few. I think I'm returning to my roots and doing a short horror for the festivals. I always get asked. Although I love horror, I try and do drama. That I do get pulled back in. People love so. There will certainly be a few new outputs from me this year. So definitely watch out. And although I'm doing a festival circuit, they'll probably end up online, I'm sure. The Troma channel are putting a lot of my stuff out now on Troma now, and also Redemption TV are putting a lot of my stuff out as well, where streaming's growing. So. And I will keep everyone updated on the socials. But yeah, there's a lot of my work's available, and a lot more is on its way this year.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic to hear. So, who wants to say their goodbyes first? Go on, Dave. I'll let you go first.
Well, yeah, just echoing what I said. Really great to speak to you, Jason. Love to get the insights into indie filmmaking. Good stuff. Thanks a lot.
Indeed. Gaza?
I love having guests on. I love having guests on that we we sort of enjoy having them on without really understanding necessarily what it is that they do. But then throughout the course of the podcast, we get a flavour for the passion, and I said it earlier, the passion for what they do and the love of what it is that they do. I hope that the people in the 53 countries that we go out to, I hope they pick up Jason's films. They they enjoy watching them. I'd love to have Jason back on, maybe towards the back end of 2023, just to talk about maybe the success, hopefully, touch wood, about the filming, got the autistic film. Sort of, it would be amazing to sit here and think, what, we spoke about it at the beginning of 2023. You've then made it. It's then been a success. Come back on late 2023 and talk about the things that you've done. And so it would be fantastic to hear from you again. It's an honour just to have you on. There's somebody that's made the amount of content that you have. It's been an absolute pleasure, privilege to sort of chat to you. Wish you all the very best of 2023. So yeah, all the best, Jason. Fair play to you.
Absolutely. Jason, do you want to leave us with a final thought?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been great, and I'm more than happy to come back. And I'd if you haven't, check out my work, and I hope you enjoy. And just say, yeah, watch out for the autistic film, because I'm hoping to push that to spread a positive message for once in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's fantastic. It's great that you're doing that. I'll reiterate again, and you feel free to ignore it. But if you ever need a 6'5" bald vicar, I'm there. I'm available, and I don't charge you anything. So there you go. So next week we're back. We've got the boys from Illinois. We're joining up with the Pub Time guys. That should always be interesting, because they're always a little bit controversial. But I will wish you a fond farewell and say thank you very much for listening, and take care.